All right, we'll stay in the NFL with a trip up to Washington. A new name for the Redskins has been announced. However, it's not very creative. For the time being, the NFL team there will simply be called the Washington Football Team, pending someone thinking up something better. The team is currently working to scrub the old name from physical and digital spaces while it revamps the uniforms before week one. Those will still sport the same colors, but the helmet logo will just be the player's number. This all sounds exciting. You can soon buy Washington Football Team merch from the NFL shop. And Jay, I'm sure you can't wait to get your hands on that, right? But seriously, this is better than nothing, right?
What you mean it's better than nothing? It is nothing. This is like if we release podcast and we didn't have a name. Like we got names this is an identity thing. It's like if your birth certificate was blank. It's like if you had an address and there's no street name. It's just blank road. I mean, this is so ridiculous. There you go. There's the Washington Redskins right there. Drinks, hold it up for our YouTube viewers. So this is so ridiculous. When we talked about this last week, good old Washington Post report with the 15 women alleging various things, workplace misconduct, sexual harassment, list goes on and on. I was of the mindset following the we're going to change the name. We're going to do that. These are the type of things you can't make up. I could not imagine. And to be clear, this is not a big a deal as the toxic culture that has been running rampant in that organization for years through every part of it, to include the actual football team, the coaching staff, the front office, the media department, public relations, human resources. It's just wherever you turn, the parking attendants, they probably can't even get things right. But they continue to amaze me. The bottom of the barrel knows no bounds. Next week we'll be talking about something even more ridiculous. But they came out here. Think about this. They said 10 days ago they made the announcement. Yeah, we go after a thorough review, we're gonna change the name. What have you been doing for the past 10 days? I mean, I understand, and Drake's going to tell us about this, and I understand it. There's got to be some difficulty coming up with a new name. Something you've held near and dear to this name, Daniel Snyder included, for the better part of the last, 80-some years, including 21 seasons of just the complete failure under the stewardship of Daniel Snyder. But you couldn't.
I thought that was your boy.
We couldn't get anything. We couldn't get anything. I find that hard to believe. And think about this now, because you brought up the merchandise, and it's a fair point. So when all the the uproar was coming about the team name, racism, blah blah blah. We all know why the name has been changed, and it's not for virtue. If it was for virtue, it would have been done a long time ago. This was a money thing. Sponsorships up in arms about it, but the Redskins or the Washington Football Team. Think about the merchandise issue. They pulled the merchandise off these websites, and you couldn't find it. You do a search for Washington Redskins, no results. You can't buy nothing. Now they won't paying customers to buy merchandise for a team that has no identity. Now you're going to have players running around out there. You got no logo. You got players going to be out there with their numbers on their backs and their helmets. This is so you cannot. I'm having
Isn't
trouble.
that like old school football?
Alabama does it and they pull it off, but it's a little different in college, I think.
Yeah.
This is something that is so ridiculous. It's so outlandish. I'm having trouble. I'm pulling a Joe Biden right now. I'm having trouble putting together two consecutive sentences because this is so ridiculous. You couldn't give me anything. You could be the Washington Founders. You could be the Washington Presidents. You could have been something. Now I know there's some people that's going. The other side of that is whatever name you pick, it's going to be somebody's going to have a problem with it. But to not come up with nothing. And again, back to my point last week. Daniel Snyder has to go. He has to get out of there. I don't care what you need to do or who you need to co-sign on it with Roger Goodell. I haven't heard anything from him on this front. I don't want to see some some slap on the wrist fine. I don't want to see you take a 7th round draft pick away from them. They can't draft either way, so it ain't gonna matter. I don't want to see none of that. You got to have a change in leadership, and here is why. The Fritz Pollard Alliance, which is responsible for the diversity, we're trying to get more diversity in the NFL. They already up in arms about two more guys or two more people that they've hired. They brought in Terry Bateman and Julie Donaldson. Now, Julie Donaldson, she former employee of NBC Sports Washington, worked as an anchor, worked as a host, and she's going to take over as Senior Vice President of Media, become the first female to be a regular on-air member of an NFL radio broadcast. That's good. That's good, even though you would argue, I mean, all these women just came out with all these allegations. You want to, I guess she got a nice contract. You probably pay some good money to take a job in that toxic environment because nothing really has changed. It's the same ownership. And then you have Mr. Bateman. Terry Bateman is a longtime business associate of Daniel Snyder and is going to take over as executive vice president and chief marketing officer. Wow, those sound like really high profile positions. Wasn't this part of the problem? Daniel Snyder with his good old boys crew, it was people within his inner circle that were getting accused of all of these type of things. It appears to me it's the same old. As long as Daniel Snyder owns the team, they're not going to be relevant in terms of positive headlines. They're not going to make headlines based off winning games, winning divisions, and I'm not going to go any farther than that because they're not even worthy of that type of discussion. But the only way to make change, we've said this on several occasions, you got to start top down. You want more diversity, perfect opportunity for it is to get Daniel Snyder out of here, get a group of black business people with money. They're out there. There are successful black folks out here that can put this thing together and make it happen. You get them together, you own the team, and then you start diversifying. You can do it big because Daniel Snyder ain't going to give it to you. He's not.
I just want to, let everybody know that it was well spoken by my colleague there. As you can see, he's very passionate about this. Your boy, not so much. I'm just going to tell you like this. We're going to cut straight to the chase. You know what I'm saying? I like mine's on the rocks, no chaser. Here's the deal. All right. They named it Washington Football Team, right? And we got a problem with this because this is about as boring as it gets. This is the old New York Giants coach when he's at the podium talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no life, right?
It's Pat Shurmur. That's
Pat
exactly
Shurmur,
what
right?
this is.
So if for those of you that don't know, Google Pat Shurmur. Just Google you a Pat Shurmur press conference and you'll see what I mean. It's about as boring. But I asked myself this. Why would Washington do anything other than give us a boring name? They're a boring team. I mean, honestly, the last time the last time Washington was worth talking about was the RG3 era, and that lasted about as long as a nap. So what are we talking about here? Of course they gave us this bottom tier name. Of course. They're a bottom tier franchise. They gave us bottom tier effort, where the owner giving us bottom tier effort to even rectify a culture that he cultivated. Look at this bottom tier effort he gave. Hey, I don't like you today. I'm gonna get my other homeboy over here. Hey, you want a job? What's your name? Oh yeah, I know your husband. Yeah, Donald Trump. Yeah, and she gets a job. Listen, I myself, right? I just look at this as comical, but let me be realistic. I do understand why they got this old copy and paste name. We saying they had a week to come up with a better name. We have to understand this franchise had their name since 1933. They was called the Redskins. They refused to change their name throughout all those decades, right? And all of a sudden they changed the name. And we thought they was going to have the initiative, the drive, the want to actually give us a name that we can rally behind. The name for me doesn't really bother me as much. Whatever, you want to call yourself Washington football team, all right, whatever. Because it's only going to last until week 16. You're not making the playoffs, so we ain't got to worry about no postseason name. You know what I'm saying? Get through the season. Washington football team, Washington running back, Washington quarterback, whatever the case might be. Get through the season. And then, I guess they'll try it again next year. But listen, I just don't expect a whole lot from this team. Like, literally, just think about it. How much do you expect from Washington? How much did you expect from Washington when they was called the Redskins? You damn sure don't expect nothing from them now that they're a Washington football team. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they sound like a newspaper company. What are we talking about here? Like, they're giving us the effort that we knew they was going to give us. Why are we surprised? And like I was telling Jay earlier, it would be one thing if this was the Cowboys. What? Pittsburgh. The Green Bay Packers. Then you would be like, oh, I can't believe this. This is crazy. It's Washington. They've been a clown show for so long. Like, what are we talking about here? They ain't got it right in decades. And we expect them to get the name right with a week to prepare for it? Nah, come on. We just put too much on their plate. We put too much on their plate. Now, to get to the owner, Jay was spot on. They got to get rid of this guy. This guy is blatantly, he don't give a rip. Because when he had a chance to correct his wrongs, he's just like, hey, I'm going to hire some more of the homies. We just going to laugh it up and smoke a cigar. No big deal. What are they going to do, fire me? Yeah, good one. I just got off the phone with Jerry. We you know what I'm saying? It got to go through him first, so it is what it is. But like, listen, fellas. I mean, honestly, when I look at this in totality, it's just the only thing that's missing. They don't have a logo, so I do agree with. I mean, not having a logo is pretty weird in today's NFL, but I don't think we, as fans, as media, as anything, we shouldn't get as upset that Washington, the NFL franchise that's located in Washington, D.C., decided not to join the party, not to put enough effort to really give a rip about their fans and actually come up with something that they fans can gravitate around. We know that. We didn't watch them draft in the last 5 years. It's been hard for them to give us something to gravitate around. And now we thought the name was going to come. Nah, man. So, yeah, listen. We got a Washington effort on this one, fellas. That's all it is. We got a Washington effort on this. Washington football team.
Can I just say real quick, the point of having 10 days to get a name, and I know Washington probably not prepared for this. Because they're not prepared for much of anything. But if you've been pressured for so long about the name, like, wouldn't you like in the back? Wouldn't you have something? Like, I mean, it's not like just 2 weeks ago, hey, name change, frag out, just change the name. This been happening. This been talking about this for years. I mean, you would think you would have a backup list to just choose from. Like, hey, in case we have to eventually cave in and fold like the cheap folding chairs that we are, we'll have this list of names, and we can get out in front of this thing. No, they didn't. No, they must not have had it. And one more last point, real quick. The merchandise issue. I'm telling you, whatever the normal prices are for actual football teams that have names, logos, and some semblance of relevance for the past 20 years, that Washington football team merchandise, everything should be discounted. Everything. You shouldn't have to pay full price for a team that doesn't even have an identity.
I was just going to say, wouldn't you agree that if this happened, let's say 10 years ago, it would have been a lot easier for them to pick a name than in today's climate?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
I mean, so it's not to say that they didn't have a plan B, but it's Washington, so I'm assuming they didn't have one. But it's not to say they didn't, and they had to scratch it because they knew every single name that they was going to come up with. Either A, is owned by the guy that Cody going to tell y'all about, or B, it was going to offend somebody. Either way, they could have been caught between a rock and a hard place. I got to give them that. But at the end of the day, like I say, you got big brain people up here that get paid a lot of money to figure this out, and you got to come up with something better. But they gave us the Washington effort.
It should have. You know what they should have. You know what their name should have been if they were going to go this route. They should be the Washington question marks. That's what they should have done.
Logo on the helmet and everything.
Lot.
Yeah, I was thinking just now, if
That's an easy logo. Yeah.
if they are going to roll with football team for the season, the end zones at home, one of them has a team name, the other one has like the nickname. Do they just put football team in one end zone? Do we just put Washington? Has it?
Or just,
Anyways,
no,
just
just
put
put
a big
football on
football
one end and
Just
team on
football,
the other.
just straight up football, like it's a
And team
commercial,
on the other.
Yeah. Yeah, this was so one of the things that's probably holding us up a little bit right now, and this goes exactly a perfect segue off of what y'all were just talking about. The poor planning going into this is a guy in Virginia has basically stolen all their nicknames. It was kind of played off as a joke at first, but it's serious. This guy named Philip Martin McCauley is a 61-year-old businessman. He lives in Virginia. He's called a trademark swatter. He literally steals potential nicknames. And ever since the first time this happened, like back in 2015, this buzz had started, he went and stole like every possible nickname, like Renegades and Warriors and Red Hawks and like anything you would attribute Washington with. And he's kind of sitting on them. Now, he's claimed since that he is open and willing to give Washington a name because he's a fan and he feels bad for him or whatever. Or he's applauding that their efforts of changing the name, whatever the case may be. He claims that he's being generous and wants to give them a name. Even though in 2015 he said he wanted to get a quote haul from Dan Snyder, but that's neither here nor there. But now he's already kind of backtracked and he said that Washington's giving the cold shoulder and they're not talking to him and they're not wanting to deal with him and they got that ego going on, whatever the case is. And now he's starting to say he's maybe back to just accepting some offers, and we'll talk about it. But for right now, it kind of the four names that sort of have been kind of surfacing among talking heads and media and people and whatever else are the Americans, the Red Tails, the Renegades, and the Red Hawks. And the Red Tails is a good one. That has the historical significance of being the Tuskegee Airmen from the first African American aviation unit in the military in World War II.
Yeah.
That's been one that comes up a lot. The rest of them, they just they sound like XFL names, for being honest. But yeah, I mean, really the question now is if they're going to switch mid-season or if they're just going to wait till next year. Because what should have happened is they should have gotten with FedEx and was a sponsor. All right, we get it, cool, we got it, cool. Let's keep the name one more season. We'll give us a whole year to think of this and plan, since we didn't do that before. But instead, I guess they panicked because of all this other stuff coming out, and they just dropped it at the drop of a hat. And now they're up the creek without a paddle. This is the best they have. But hey, I'll be nice to them. The uniforms are all right looking. They look all right. That's it. That's all we got for positives. We'll give them something.